Now, if you've seen any of my videos, then you know that I'm kind of a fan of Elden Ring. Elden Ring showed up. Elden Ring. Speaking of Elden Ring, yeah, Elden Ring. Okay, maybe a little more than a fan. Elden Ring, from the first second, captured my heart. This unique and interesting world is an exciting explosion of creativity at every turn. A land of true dark fantasy that brings something never seen before to the table. With the first teaser trailer coming out all the way back in June of 2019, officially, from that second on, I knew my life purpose was to play this game. And I did. With its release date in February of 2022, the world itself was hyped up. The last game to achieve this kind of hype, attention, and excitement was Metal Gear 2, and it didn't quite live up to the expectations. Elden Ring, though, we'll get into that in a second. Although the insane amount of hype and excitement, did it carry it through? Did it hold on to it? The questions remain and the answers await. How is Elden Ring doing? Don't forget to subscribe. All the way back in 2019, long before PGG was even a thing, I was up late playing Mass Effect 3 multiplayer with my fam when I got a notification on my super high-tech sensor thing that a secret new game by Bandai Namco was just announced. So I instantly hopped on and checked it out. It was possibly one of the biggest and most important dates in video game history. Other than, well, you know. What can I say? June 9th, 2019, the 25th E3 event. Everybody's excited to see the next big games coming out on their consoles, some of which included our first peek into 343's next massive installment for the Halo series, Halo Infinite. And alongside Circle, Sideways 8, CD Projekt Red's decade in the making, Cyberpunk 2077. Which, if you're interested, I've made a few videos on that game itself. Some videos I say they're actually pretty freaking funny, not gonna lie. But after these big and exciting trailers, after all the clapping and applause, the lights dimmed. Everyone got on their knees as the screen slowly started lighting up, the sound of a hammer against an anvil, and finally, the shattering of the Elden Ring. This was the big moment of the whole event. Though there was a lot happening and you couldn't tell what is what in the trailer at that time, it was interesting. There was just something different about the whole thing, like a very unique and special take on high fantasy, or even dark fantasy, I guess. Alongside Bandai Namco in the creation of this new and unique world was author of A Song of Ice and Fire, George R.R. Martin, aka the guy who made Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon stuff. With this team... No, I'm recording a video. With this team behind the wheel of this new Elden Ring game, something epic was bound to happen. Instantly, the hype was crazy. Everybody had something to say about it, theories were popping up left and right, people were excited, and most importantly, it was the whole world. Not just a small group of Western gamers, no. The whole world. The world. People on all continents were hyped up, even penguins. And once again, the last game that got the whole world excited for it was MG2. Yikes. And soon enough, more trailers, more announcements, more updates on the progress. And then, the release date, February 25th, 2022. The greatest day ever. Well, with the hype only growing, the interest overflowing, and the anticipation exploding, Elden Ring was truly going to be one of the most popular games ever. And finally, it happened. And guys, I can't even come close to explaining the kind of excitement that was going around the world for this game. There was just something so special to opening up that game on its first night, making that video on it. It still comes back to me sometimes, but it's still never the same. The hype was through the roof, and the game got loads of sales, loads of attention, all of it. I mean, simply, everybody was playing the game. Everybody. But that was almost a year ago. How is it doing now? Has it upheld that fame? Has it remained as popular as it started out? What is Elden Ring's current state? Wait a second, I am so sorry. Hello? Oh my goodness, it's Vix Dayquil. What's up, dude, that got me through my cold? Oh, okay, he's kind of quiet, but he's saying something about making sure you're subscribed, which I hope you are. Hey man, thanks for helping me when I was sick. I mean, dude, it was terrible. I mean, I sound like Thanos' dad with throat cancer. I sound like this girl from the Twilight Zone.
My curio shops.
I sounded like I was gargling a whole fish tank I found at the aquarium. I sounded like James Earl Jones. I was kind of sick. The sad truth is, the numbers have dropped. The numbers have dropped substantially. Now, unlike most games that this kind of situation happens to, the cause for this problem isn't some terrible decision made behind the scenes by the company, it's not the game not being updated enough, in fact, it's not even a problem. See, if you've noticed throughout the video that I've never once talked about what kind of game this was. Never did I mention that this was going to be a first person or third person, shooter or slasher, multiplayer or solo. See, my point is Elden Ring is one of the best products of good marketing in the last several years. I would argue that The Batman did a phenomenal job at advertising and marketing, but Elden Ring is kind of like God tier, I'm not gonna lie. How did they achieve this? I can almost hear you asking. Let me explain. In this day and age, we've come so far in world building that something that is slightly different and maybe even just a tad more original than the thing next to it is a prize. We want something new and interesting. Elden Ring brings a lot to the table. I went into super detail on my video on what makes Elden Ring the greatest game of all time. Go check it out because it's actually really great. The game is simply different. You can't draw ties and inspiration in this game the same way that you can your average fantasy game. It's truly a different take on the fantasy genre. On top of that, what would you think that most people would think if one of the greatest game companies got with one of the greatest high fantasy authors of this age? So right off the bat, we're getting something different, unique, and awesome with this team up. And now, the marketing. Their extreme precision when it comes to just what they showed us in the early trailers. They give you a lot of questions and very little answers. That's getting you roped into the world. You want to know the world, and you want to have the answers, but you'll have to wait. On top of that, the cinematic shots they show of pure tense action. Massive dragons wielding intensely powerful lightning, massive bosses completely walking through tarnish as if they're blades of grass, trailers and shots showing you the pure beauty of the lands between. And it works for Elden Ring specifically because this game truly has so much to offer that's both stunning and never seen before. And all the while, Yuka Kitamura's amazing god tier music is carrying you straight to the lands between. On top of that, how are people not going to see the final trailer of the E3 event 2019? It's like the big moment. You see, the marketing of Elden Ring was so good that all of a sudden it didn't matter if the game was a Soulsborne, which is a really challenging and unforgetting genre for a lot of people. The marketing, the advertisement Elden Ring got is truly well thought out and amazing. And the most important part, the game itself was actually good. Great, in fact. See, all the greatest marketing in the world can only get your game so far if your game is trash. Elden Ring is not. So though the numbers have gone down a lot, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Though we're all striving for higher numbers, the decline is not due to any bad decisions like most games suffer from. This is kind of what you get when the entire world is excited to play a game because it's been advertised in a way that shows you just how different and special the game is. And this is what you get when that game actually comes out and people start to realize, oh, this game is hard, / this game is a Soulsborne. Now once again, you wouldn't have gotten very far if the game was terrible, which it is not. When you have a game that's so well built up, showcased, or revealed as Elden Ring was through the early trailers and announcements, it gets people fired up and excited for the game. And that's exactly what happened to Elden Ring. When this starts to happen, people start to kind of tilt away slightly from their usual interests. This is also what happened for Elden Ring. And when people start playing the game they've been super hyped up for the last several years, they slowly start to realize that it's a Soulsborne game, which is a playstyle and a type of game that only really appeals to a certain kind of people. It's not very forgiving for anybody who doesn't enjoy it, because if you don't, you're gonna be sent home in sackcloth. It's kinda challenging. And so you have it, the rise and fall of Elden Ring, but I wouldn't consider it a fall. Simply the powerful explosion of hype cleverly engineered and orchestrated over the years of production fading away. We see the same thing happening to Fortnite. It's not dying as much as it's losing the initial burst of interest and attention, and in the end leaving the true fanbase of the gamer genre. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's actually talk. Elden Ring is the greatest game of all time. From the second you push open the gates to Limgrave, there's no going back. The lands between have called and you must answer. Speaking of calling, these huge ants from Elden Ring just called me last night and told me to let you know that if you don't subscribe, and I mean right now, then they're gonna make nests in your backyard. Giant fire ant nests. Just subscribe. So, what do you think? Elden Ring truly is a special game. It's beautiful, it's interesting, and most importantly, it's a new take on the high fantasy genre that so many other games have tried to reach and achieve. So the drop in Elden Ring's players is not due to any bad decisions, it's nothing going on behind the scenes, it's just the passing away of the initial burst of interest. Soulsborne games are not the most popular kind of game out there. For most people who just don't have that kind of patience, the game is super challenging. Elden Ring is a Soulsborne game. After the drop in players, they've seemed to gone down to the more realistic number, which is still more popular than any other Soulsborne out there at this time. I can't wait to see how Bandai Namco handles this, because I don't think it's going to be the end for Elden Ring. I've heard some rumors floating around about a potential big DLC, and we've seen what a good DLC can do for a game that just needs it, just saying. So, I plan on making one more video this year, and then working like crazy behind the scenes to get some of the biggest videos, definitely on this channel, but the entire world out there. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and an even better rest of the day. And remember, Life is short. Play great games. About a week ago, I got a comment on one of my community posts recommending that I make a video on a game I enjoy. Now this stood out to me. I had never been asked to do something like this, and I was excited. And then about 3 seconds later, I realized I don't play many video games, which is weird for a guy who talks about them on YouTube, I know. But I was determined to make